Hello, my dearest Sarah. It's your American dad, Dan the man, Dan the snack man. Getting ready for a little fire. Oh, I'll tell you in a minute why I decided to do the fire tonight. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. My fire starting method of a cotton ball soaked in Vaseline. Vaseline is petroleum jelly. It's an oil derivative. But anyway, it doesn't work if there's too much Vaseline on it. Too much fuel, not enough wick. But I got it going. So we're going to have a beautiful fire here in just a little while. Wow, what a starry night. Almost a full moon, but I can see Jupiter. I know Mars is out now too. I'm not sure which one it is. Maybe I'll pull my star tracker out a little later. So anyway, the reason I decided to have a fire tonight is had a pretty good day. I'm selling 3D printed Christmas ornaments now, personalized. Each person gets their own little Christmas message and a picture on the back, a clip art basically of a Christmas tree, or I've got stockings, angels, stuff like that. And I sold a big order, $200, and I delivered the first half of it today. So it's feeling pretty good. Got home. I've got to start working on the second half. Got to start printing. And my inner child said, I'd like a fire tonight. And I said, no, I've got work to do. And my inner child, because it's a child, said, I want a fire tonight. 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 And I said, all right. And I spoke to it as a parent would speak to a child, gently but assertively. I said, would you just shut up? Give me a moment's peace. And he said, okay, as soon as we get the fire, I want a fire tonight. I want a fire tonight. So I said, okay. I got my little shopping cart and walked down to the grocery store in the corner, which nicely sells firewood. Bought myself a bundle of firewood, walked it back home. It was early enough I could split it up without too much noise to bother the neighbors. Built my fire, and here it is. It's going to be a wonderful night. It's just starting to get cool here in Florida. I know where you are, it's just starting to get warm. But in Florida, we really look forward to the cool weather. It's so blisteringly hot during the summer. Humidly hot, I should say. Not high temperature, but just so humid. Muggy all the time, sweat that doesn't evaporate. And it's cool enough tonight to enjoy a little bit of a fire. I'm indulging in a glass of wine. And I thought, I miss you so much, Sarah. I think I'll just imagine you're sitting with me here around the fire. In the past, I've done guided meditations with you, and and that sort of thing. But I think we'll just have a conversation tonight, if that's okay with you. A little bit talking about what's going on with me and asking you questions and imagining what you might say. Maybe talking a little bit about your baby Violet, my baby Riley. And I thought it'd be kind of cool if maybe later we get into some of the stories I have of Riley that are right around the age Violet's approaching. You know, so you'd have that little glimmer of perspective to say things are changing. Things are always changing with the new baby. But sometimes we get so mired in the poopy diapers and the laundry and the crying and the feeding. And then after you feed them, of course, it's more poopy diapers. But there's some things that just really stick with me that were so beautiful. Just a moment here or there. And those moments added up to a bond that was unbreakable. Gotta remember how much you loved your mom. That's a reflection of how much your mom loved you. She loved you as an adult, but she started loving you when you were a little tiny baby, just like Violet. She watched you grow up, and she loved you all the way through. Knowing your mom, she probably loved you more and more. She just had this huge capacity to love, a big heart. She loved animals too much, rescuing them all. She loved my son, rescued him. She loved you, Michael, Joe. She didn't love herself enough, I think. She was battered and bruised sometimes, and it's easy when the injuries start young, we blame ourselves, and if we're not careful, we carry that blame all the way through our lives. But really, we weren't to blame. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes unfair things happen. Sometimes really messed up things happen. That doesn't make it our fault. But the littler the kid, the more likely they are to incorporate that it is their fault. I was reading something the other day, which of course means I saw it on YouTube. But basically, a child is programmed to love its caregivers unconditionally. So if the caregivers, really anyone, but especially if the caregivers mistreat the child when it's very young, or neglect them, or just do anything, even the occasional thing that sticks with them is, well, that wasn't right. They don't see that it wasn't right. They see it was me. I made this happen. It's a defense mechanism. They need to be taken care of. So if they find fault with the caregiver, they're in a position where they risk their protection, they risk their survival. So instead, we're programmed to take in anything that happens to us as our fault. It's something we need to learn not to do anymore. But you and I know that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just, things that the parents carry with them, and situations that adults face sometimes have nothing to do with the baby or the small child. It's just, it impacts them. And I think sometimes with Riley, the fights that Pori and I had, his mom and I had, may have impacted him more than I thought. He was obviously so young, he didn't have a conscious memory of these things. But I'm more and more convinced that the unconscious mind remembers almost everything from very, very young. When I was growing up, they used to say, "Oh, kids are tough. They won't remember. They'll get over it." But it turns out that's not true. Kids are tough because they remember. Deep down inside, they remember. And it can mess them up later. So I've learned, because I was a little messed up when I was little with all the things that happened in my family. So you cannot out logic your unconscious mind. You can't say, well, you shouldn't feel this way because da 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 da. You have to just keep saying, you're good, you're worthy, you're loved, you didn't do anything wrong. And just repeat that. It's an affirmation. And the unconscious mind responds well to affirmations when they're spoken often enough. I just remembered the first thing that I wanted to tell you about Riley. So, let me think here. Okay. He was a little tiny baby. His mom and I split when he was a year old. Of course, you know what it's like the first 6 months. It's just they're a blob of goo, as I used to think of them. Slowly responding a little bit here and there. Slowly developing a personality, but it's so slow. And I've said this before, we pour our love into them and they give it back, but not really. They don't know, they can't give us anything. They just take, because they got nothing to give yet. But as they get a little older, 6 months, a year, their personality really starts to assert itself. And you know Riley, he was always mischievous. So anyway, the memory I had was I was over at his mom's house, my old townhouse, our old townhouse, when we were together, and she stayed there. I moved out, and I've come to pick him up, I think, or I think at the time I was just coming to visit him during the week. And he's walking at this point. So he's past a year, but still in diapers, of course, and not speaking. And he goes over to one of the potted plants that his mom liked. She had potted plants inside the house, and they were on little stands and things like that. And she says to me, uh-oh. I said, what? She says, watch this. He goes over to the potted plant. He looks at us. He reaches into the dirt, and his mom starts saying, no, baby, no, don't do that. He reaches into the dirt, gets a handful, gets a big smile, and shoves it in his mouth. He basically was eating dirt. And he was doing it because we started cracking up. And I said, we got to not laugh. He's learning the wrong thing. And he just has a big grin on his face. But it was just so funny because he was looking at us the whole time. It wasn't like he was really eating dirt. He was showing off. He was putting on a show. I thought that was hilarious. Another memory I have, and this was a really good one, bittersweet. I had moved out, had an apartment, which I couldn't afford, but because I was still paying for most of the old bills too. Good job as an engineer, but I was still barely making it, going into debt while I was doing all this. But anyway, I had him for my visitation. I said, okay, I'm going to take him to my apartment, and his mom didn't want me to. Oh, just come here. And no, he's coming with me. That's part of us, being apart. I get my visitation. I get my time with him alone. So she agreed to it finally. And then she did one of those weird things she does. She insisted I not take any of his toys from the house. I said, well, let me just, I'll take his little, no, nothing. Not his blanket, not his little stuffed animal, not any of his blocks, toys, nothing. I think, oh man, it's just not worth the argument. It's late at night. I think it was Friday night after I got off work. I can't go to the toy store and buy anything, but I'll manage. So I get him, and I'm hesitant, but I'm happy. I'm hesitant because it's basically a new situation. He's going to be with me alone in my place, just him and me. Nobody can walk in and tell us we're not supposed to be doing this or that. But I'm a little worried because I just don't know how it's going to work out. I'm also still thinking about the toys a lot because he's a 1-year-old baby. All he knows is toys and the eating and the pooping, of course. So I get to the apartment and I carry him upstairs. I think it was on the 3rd floor. Go inside, say, okay, and at this point, he's a year old, so he doesn't speak. Sometimes girls will speak at a year, but he didn't speak till he was 3. But they understand much earlier than they speak. So by the time he was 3, when he spoke, he could understand everything. Even at a year, he definitely understood tone and yes and no and mommy and daddy and all that other stuff. And so I said, okay, this is where daddy lives now. We're going to stay here for the weekend. And he gets down and he walks around a little bit and he's looking around here and there. And I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to do? He wants to play. Oh, I've got it. When we were together, Pori and I always had a struggle with him trying to get into kitchen cabinets. He wanted to get in the kitchen cabinets where the pots and pans were. And it was like, no, you've got toys, play with your toys. And I thought he doesn't have toys. So I put him in the little kitchen area, opened the cabinets where the pots and pans were, and I said, go for it. He got a big smile on his face. He started pulling out pots and pans and banging them. And the big thing that he loved to do was, stacking them up. So the little pot goes inside the big pot kind of thing. And then put the lid on the little pot, then put the lid on the big pot. So now the little pot is inside the big. And it just enthralled him. He loved it. And then I thought, oh, I've got something else. And I go get the backgammon set that I had. Because the men are large enough, they're not able to be swallowed. And I opened that, put that down next to him. Oh, he loves that. He starts pulling out the backgammon men, they're little discs. I don't know if you know that, but and then what does he do with them? Puts them in the pot, takes them out, puts them in another pot, puts 2 in that pot, puts 1 in this pot, 2 in that pot, over here, there, da 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 da. Just having a good time, trying out every possible combination of pots, pans, lids, backgammon men. And so it was a pretty good weekend, and that's when I knew we were going to be okay. Took him back to his mom's, got home to my place by myself Sunday night, put away the pots and pans, put away the backgammon set, but I was missing a man. I was missing one of the pieces. I looked everywhere for that thing. I could not find it. I said, uh-oh, I hope he didn't. Well, he couldn't have swallowed it. Maybe it was in his diaper. I don't know. It's gone. But I put away the set and settled into life and working and adjusting to a new situation. It was about a month later, I'm cooking something and I go deep into the cabinets to get the big pot on the very bottom, the one with the little pots inside it, and I pull the little pot out and there's a backgammon man sitting in the bottom of the big pot underneath the little pot. And, there it is. It's funny, hilarious. And of course I bought him some toys when I had the chance, and he had those at my place. And I didn't stay in that apartment too long because I had a friend who had a house. He had split up recently, and he had a roommate, but the roommate was moving out, so I kind of had to wait. And then when he moved out, I moved in and was there for like 5 years. Riley and his kids kind of grew up together a little bit. Turned out that guy wasn't that great a friend. I mean, I guess at the time he was what I needed, but he was a seasonal friend, come and go kind of guy. I've always been tried to be really loyal to my friends, especially as an adult, but doesn't always come back. And I'm probably too loyal sometimes because I don't always have anything in common. I just want to hang on. I don't like change sometimes, but I've gotten used to the idea that change is inevitable. You either roll with it or it rolls over you. So what's Violet doing now? Let's see. She's about just past 6 months, 7 months. She's either walking or getting ready to walk. She's a little rugrat, crawling everywhere, starting to pull herself up, or trying to stand probably. Can't walk quite yet, I imagine. or not really, maybe almost. Probably loves Freya and Peanut, or her playmates. And of course, Mommy and Daddy she thinks are playmates, but she knows they're special too. How's Mommy and Daddy doing? 7 months. Mommy and Daddy are tired. Very, very, very tired. And they think, I got to do this for 17 years and 5 months more. But it's never this hard again, Sarah, Corey. It's never this hard again. And everything you put in now, even though she seems like a bottomless well that you can never fill up with enough care and love, she's not. She's filling up. She's just getting very deep. And at some point, she's going to grow up enough to realize how much you love her. And she's going to come pouring it back on you, overflowing. As much as you love your mom and dad, Sarah, can you imagine what it's like when Violet's going to love you that much? Speaking of your mom, there was something I wanted to mention to you. I know you probably won't like this, but your mom was not as slim after she had kids as she was before, was she? Did you ever notice? Probably not, other than she probably talked about it. She didn't like it. She didn't like the extra weight. But she was beautiful, Sarah, and so are you. That extra weight, that's nothing. That's just life hanging on to you. With what you've been through. And that's your mom too. She'd been through a lot, and I know she was always self-conscious about her looks, but she was so beautiful, and you're the same way, just so beautiful. You really shouldn't, well, shouldn't isn't the right word. You really don't have to feel that you aren't your most beautiful now. It's kind of like with me. I've always been smart, Sarah. But finally, I'm starting to get a little bit wise. Because smart plus experience equals wisdom, if you approach it right. Some people never get wise. They just get wise ass. Or that's kind of me too, huh? But you were pretty before, but you're becoming beautiful now. Just like Trish. Really deeply beautiful. Yep. Yep. So I guess that's a milestone if I were you I'd really look forward to is that first birthday. Because Riley didn't really, there was something about when he started talking, he became a person to me. I don't know. I think that's just the way my mind worked. But he wasn't, I didn't know his personality till he talked. And he told me what he'd been thinking all this time. But then I look back, I kind of did, But in a year, he really started showing his true colors. The way he liked to play, the way he liked to make people laugh. So you got a little ways to go. But here's the question I have for you. Do you ever stop and think what it was like when Violet was first born? That first picture you sent me, with you laying, I think, on the couch, and Violet in a bassinet or crib, I don't know what they call them. It broke my heart, Sarah. You were so sad. I just looked at your face and I could see you were so sad. And Violet was just, like I said, a gabagoo. She didn't know what was going on. Well, she kind of probably did deep down somehow, but she wasn't causing the sadness. She wasn't, she wasn't being impacted by it. It's just, Mommy was really, really sad. And now you're tired. You're so tired, it's hard to be sad. It's probably hard for you to find time to be sad or anxious, I'm guessing. Tired, tired, tired. That's what I remember so much about this time that you're in. Hold on. There we are. Oops. There we are. That'll get going in a minute now. Neglecting my fire tending duties. I was having such a good time talking with you. I'll tell you one more story. Then I think I'm gonna have to sign off and wait to talk to you later. Anyway, this is about playing. My friend, his children visited every other week. But when I first got visitation with Riley, I asked for every week, and his mom said okay. So every other week he was there with just me and my roommate, but no other kids. So I played with him a lot. Kids games, which kid game at that point is blocks or truck. And he had this big red plastic truck that he loved. And it didn't have motors or sound or anything, just red plastic. But it was bigger than the other play cars he had, and he'd roll that back and forth to make truck noises. But he loved blocks. And I remember one time in particular, he's playing with blocks, and I see he needs a playmate. So I get down on my hands and knees, and then finally kind of sit down on the floor and start playing blocks with him. And the first thing I do is I start building towers for him. I put the block on top of the block on top of the block, and then he knocks them over and laughs. I thought, oh, that's fun. Then I build it again, and he knocks them over and laughs. I said, okay, this time you build it, and I knock it over. No, 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 no. I said, yes, you build it. He builds it, and then he knocks it over. I said, no, that's not fair. And he laughs. But I did work with him. I finally told him what fair was, and I don't think he really gave me equal time knocking over blocks, but he did finally set up some blocks and listen to me when I said it's my turn to knock him over. And I think I just knocked over once or twice, and then it was back to me building the blocks and him knocking them over. Yeah. Yeah, those are the memories that I'll cling to forever. Nothing can take them away. I said that was the last one, but I've got one more here. This is probably around age 2. I'm still dressing him and so forth, showering him, and he can feed himself, but I still take care of him mostly. Most of his, still wearing diapers, I believe, right around just before he got out of them. And one day I'm dressing him. I've got his clothes on. He's looking really cute, and He's laying on my bed, which is a big water bed. He would sleep in my bed with me. So it's his bed too. But anyway, it's a big water bed. He's laying on his back, and okay, I'm gonna put your shoes on now. And he sticks his feet up in the air. Didn't even have to say, give me your feet or anything. He knows. He sticks his feet up in the air. And I'll put one shoe on. He's looking up at me. As I'm putting the other shoe on, my roommate comes up behind me, looks over my shoulder at Riley, and he says, "Oh boy, you're just so happy. Daddy's taking care of you, isn't he? Daddy's putting on your shoes." And that caused me to stop and really look at Riley. I mean, I'd looked at him so much that I was beginning to forget how special our children are. But in that instant, I stopped and I looked, and he was looking at me with just adoration and joy. He was looking at me with complete trust. I was his daddy. And he just had every bit of confidence in me. More confidence than I had in myself. And even now, sometimes I think about that particular memory. Me putting on his shoes, him looking at me, my roommate saying that, me looking at him, and that look on his face. I can't even bring up the exact image, but I remember the feeling of just feeling really complete. Feeling like a piece of my puzzle that I'd been missing for the longest time was having his shoes put on. Give a kiss to Violet for me. Give a kiss to Corey. Not on the lips, cheek. I'm mas macho. Pet Freya. Give Peanut something. I don't know what cats do anymore. I haven't had a cat for so long. Give him a rub too. They don't much like petting, but you'll rub their chin or their neck a little bit, just the right way. They love it. And some point tonight, I want you to look in the mirror, if you would, please. Look at yourself the way your mother would look at you. And know that you are loved. Look at yourself the way I would look at you, the way I will look at you again soon. And know that you are loved. Look at yourself the way Violet looks at you. And know that you are loved. The way Corey looks at you. And know that you are loved. And then look at yourself. And remember, you are loved, Sarah.